lot of people trying to figure out how do they make ends meet, but some of us also need to understand that, look, we don't know how this thing is going to end. What must we be thinking about now when it comes to our money and how we manage our money? Some say put those pennies together, right? My next guest, Shani Curry, is a personal finance expert. She, of course, is someone, she's out of Miami, works with the CBS affiliate there, again, and so you can follow her on social media as well. I'll give that a handle in just a second. So, Shani, look, people out here, you see people raising money for food. You see people raising money. You have all these different benefits that are going on. And so many folks just don't know what's next. You got companies who are sitting on money, not spending money on advertising because they don't know what's going to happen with the economy. And so what are you advising people when it comes to really being focused on their dollars and looking at every single penny over the next several months?
So I think what's key in this is when we look into an economy and we see that, number one, when you look at the unemployment rate, it's like at 84 times of what it was last year. When the average American has about less than $400 in their savings account, all of those are going to be situations that's going to tell you that you definitely need to mind your money. Simple things that I advocate for my clients to do is, number one, simply just look at your budget. Just look at it. Oftentimes people say, I don't have a budget. Everybody has a budget, whether it's on QuickBooks, whether it's just in your hand or whether it's in your journal. You definitely have a budget. This would be the opportunity to just look at what's coming in and what's going out. So how you're going to be impacted is definitely going to be situationally. Some people have lost their jobs, so that's going to put you in a totally different demographic, whereas in you're working from home, you're still maintaining your income, you receive your stimulus check. So it really depends on what segment of income you're in.
And obviously, first of all, my panelists get ready. I'm going to go to each one of you and ask a question as well. Obviously, we talk about, a budget is essential, but what you're also dealing with is you're dealing with people who now being home, their expenses are also changing. Some people are saying they're spending far more on food than they normally do because they're home 24 hours. Now you're talking about also folks who are making online purchases when it comes to shopping as well. And so, just our normal way of operating, our routine is now totally changed because of so many are sheltered in place.
All right. So when I'm looking at a lot of my clients' budget, one of the things that we have the capacity to do is just say, how much do you think that you spend? And then we look into all of their different accounts and we see how much they actually spend on something. What I'm finding is people have had the opportunity to reduce on the amount that they're spending with gas. People's eating out expense is reducing tremendously. So what they're losing, what they're gaining from gas and what they're gaining from not eating out, they're being able to supplement that into what they're doing for groceries. So what I'm finding specifically with my clients is that a lot of them who have decided to look at their income and they're looking at what's going out, and they look at it and they go, oh my gosh, even though I'm home, I'm doing a lot with Uber Eats, I'm doing a lot with dining out. Oh my gosh, it's actually costing me $400 or $500, and I'm going to the grocery store, so that's an additional $500. When they're able to just see those numbers in front of them, look at their habits, look at how their emotional spending, they're able to reallocate that money in a way that it makes sense. So you don't feel so bad that you're spending more on groceries because you're home and you're eating more, because you've had the opportunity to reduce the amount that you're spending on gas and the amount that you're spending on dining out. If you can really get a hold of your emotional spending. This is not the time to be on autopilot. The things where you're just saying that, if you're eating out of boredom, watch your habits. Look at what it is that you're doing, just because we really don't know how long we're going to be in this situation. And you don't want to deplete your resources on the basis of overeating or on the basis of just emotional spending, because you're on autopilot. You're accustomed to eating out. You're accustomed to doing this. You're accustomed to do this. This situation has really brought us to a place where we get to let go of some of our habits that weren't serving us in the first place.
Let's see here. Let's go to Melik first. Your question for Shani Curry.
Yeah, just a quick question. Just wondering about your experience dealing with people who don't have a lot of resources, a lot of financial resources and disposable income, especially during what we're facing now with so many people being out of work. So my question is, what is your advice for those people who don't have that amount of disposable income, who may be actually dealing with an unemployment check and just trying to pay rent? Like, what is your advice for people in those type of financial situations?
Okay, so if you're finding it, you're fall within that demographic of where you've actually lost all of your income and the only thing you're getting is your unemployment check, right? Obviously, right off the bat, your wastefulness is gone. My clients who are in those positions, they definitely want to get into some level of community building. This is not the time for you to just be, completely by yourself. If you're finding that you don't have enough food resources, then this looks like you need to do some community building. That's where that's coming down to. When it comes to your rent, you want to take advantage of any of the social programs that's going to be available to you where you can. There are some people that's taking advantage, and that's something that we can't talk about. Some people that are taking advantage of COVID relief programs that's really, that they really don't need to. But for that demographic, you definitely want to get into community sharing. You want to get into food sharing. You want to find out what type of community. We have community food farms here where you can go and you can get free food. That's going to be the situation. It's more about community building, and you definitely want to be looking for employment. In some segmentations, people are finding that they're just a lot emotionally overwhelmed. So they're not doing, some of my clients are not doing that extra stuff and actually looking for employment. They're kind of getting accustomed to just getting this unemployment check. It would be in their best interest. I lost you. I don't know. Okay, there we go. Sorry. It will be in their best interest to begin looking for employment, for sure. Not just resting and thinking that that unemployment check is going to be sufficient. Those would be my 3 takeaways for that. Watch what it is that you're spending, get into community building, see what type of resources that you can take advantage of when it comes to allowing you to stall out your rent payment, your car payment, your mortgage. You definitely want to tap into those programs. If you're finding that you're kind of sinking in the emotional frustration of losing your job, find some ways to kind of segment so that you can begin looking for employment.
Adrian, what's your question for Shani Curry?
What are some ways that you're encouraging folks to save money on food? I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Is it cooking large amounts of food to last a long time? Is it sticking with non-perishables, so like the canned goods because they're cheaper than fresh goods? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's really going to be situational. There's not carte blanche with that when I'm saying, hey, you only need to do fresh foods or you only going to do canned foods and things like that. I think the most important thing is to watch what you're doing, have some level of awareness. I'm finding that some people are doing a lot of emotional eating. A lot of people are looking to food to supplement for their boredom as opposed to having some level of consciousness. So if you're overeating, this would be definitely the time, whether you're eating non-perishable, whether you're doing fresh, or whether you're getting all of your food from a food bank, whichever way that it is, it would be a very good time for you to begin watching your food intake if that is driving up your expenses. That would be the simple way that I go about that.
All right, Kelly, final question.
Sure. I heard the phrase emotional spending, and I don't hear that very often, but I would like for you to expound upon that, because I want people to understand that just because you don't have a whole lot of disposable income does not necessarily mean you can't emotionally spend your money. So my question specifically is for those who do practice emotional spending to their detriment, myself included. What are some tips of the trade that you can give us to mitigate emotional spending, or are there anything, like for us who do spend money, what would you rather us spend our money on to help us with our budget?
Okay, so the number one thing, so you asked me 2 questions, so I'm going to do the best that I can to unload them. One of them is, I think oftentimes people think that they're only investing when you're thinking about a stock and a bond, right? That's the only time that they think that they're investing. But you're always making an investment. You have to figure out whether or not if you're spending, where every dollar that you need is coming to an end, spending. That's the end of it, right? Or if you're going to be investing, are you making an investment in your health when you put food into your body? Is that an investment? When you're making an investment into your rent, you're making an investment into having housing and where it is that you live. So make sure that when you get ready to take money out of your purse, your pocket, your debit card, whatever you're using it for, think of it as an investment. Don't always think from a place of just spending where that money is going to quickly come to an end. How do you begin to look at your ability to emotional spend, right? The number one is just going to be looking at, just go and look at your transactional history. Just look at how many times you decided that you bought something that you don't necessarily need. And then look at it and say to yourself, what was I thinking? Why did I really need this? Did I really need this off of Amazon? Did I really need this? It's just really asking some hardcore questions. Oftentimes people are on auto pay when it comes to their spending because they don't look at it. So if you just look at what it is that you're doing with your money, that can help you to kind of take apart some of your emotions attached to it. People are very bored. I find a lot of people are very bored, so they're taking a lot of classes, a lot of courses, they're eating a lot of food. When I look at my clients' expenditures, I can look at every single thing that they're spending money on. A lot of it is just going to Uber Eats, a great deal. When I'm looking at budgets, it's talking about $1,500 on Uber Eats, going out and you're saying, I'm limited on cash. Are you limited on cash? You really got to, even if you're not a cook, you can learn to prepare some food for yourself. So the emotionalism of just being unaware, if you can start reducing how unaware you are, it will give you the opportunity to look into your emotions and what it is that you're buying.
All right. I think we're all good. Shani Curry, how can folks reach you?
All things on Person Empowerment. You can find me on Person Empowerment. Roland, just one last thing, if I can mention, if I can, in my few little more moments, is when it comes to COVID relief programs, if you're getting notices from your banks, or even if you're seeing things online as it relates to going ahead because you feel like you're limited on cash, maybe you may say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and freeze my mortgage payment for 12 months, or maybe I'm going to go ahead and not have my car payment for 90 days. You want to make sure that you really look closely at a lot of those relief programs that's being offered by your financial institutions, whether it's your credit card companies, whether it's your mortgage, whether it's your car payment, because oftentimes if you really don't need those programs, if you lost your job, obviously you do need a program that's going to help you maintain your home, make sure you maintain your car. However, if you're not in those type of situations and you're taking advantage of some of those programs, you can find that they will not serve you in the long term. For instance, when I'm looking through the fine lines of some of those programs for some of my clients, it's saying, yes, you can go ahead and miss 12 of your monthly payments until you recover from this. But instead of you having a 30-year mortgage, now you have a 40-year mortgage. So if you're going to take advantage of any of those COVID relief programs, you want to make sure that you read the fine lines. It may even be necessary to go to an attorney if you're going to take one of those programs to make sure that in the end of this, they're not putting so much on the back end as if you didn't make any payments at all. I'm finding that to be something that a lot of people are having to face during these COVID relief programs, for sure.
All right, folks. Shani Curry, she is the personal finance expert with CBS4 in Miami. Also, author of the book, here it is, 10 Things Every Woman Should Keep in Her Purse. Obviously, that's for the sisters because I ain't got a purse. All right, Shani, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right.